Welcome to the Rolling Out University Design and Dialogue. Um, this is a masterclass on brand storytelling, unleashing your superpower. I am Marcellus Womack and Chief Brand Strategist, 1% Brand Agency. Hey, Jackie, let me start all over. Welcome to the Rolling Out University Design and Dialogue Masterclass titled Brand Storytelling, Unleashing Your Superpower. I am Marcellus Womack, Chief Brand Strategist, 1% Brand Agency. And in the words of the great Jay-Z, you could be anywhere today, but you're here with me, and I appreciate you. So there's a quote that says, if you set yourself on fire, the world will come to see you burn. And the reason the world will come to see you is because everybody will be telling your brand story as if it's a wildfire. So, my purpose today is to set your brand on fire. And by unleashing the superpower of your brand story, we make this happen. So many ask, well, 1% brand agency, what does that mean? And, some say, do you work with the top 1%? Do you produce the top 1%? And I like to think so, but even more so, I believe in a 1% ratio. And I'm sure you've heard of the 80-20 rule. 80% of results are produced by 20% of the resources. If you had 10 players on a basketball team, it's two of them that account for the majority of the points. Your favorite album, if it got 10 songs on it, it's about two of them, that you love and play all the time. And if you're a brand owner that has 10 products, there's a good chance there's two of them that are driving the revenue. But I subscribe to the 99-1 rule. And that is 99% of the results are produced by the 1%, which is extraordinary. So 400 players in the NBA, 1% or let's say four, they drive the reason why we watch the NBA. That could be your Steph, LeBron, KD, and add someone else to it. And that's the same with your brand. If there were 100 brand products on a shelf in a store, there's one that we normally go into to buy of all in that section. So 1% brand agency focuses on accelerating one big idea that produces massive, extraordinary results. And I believe you're only one big idea and one brand story breakthrough away from changing the world. I won't deny it. I'm a straight rider. You don't wanna with me. I won't rest till my road dog's free. That's my guy right there. That is Tupac, none other. And he has been immortalized. He's at the intersection of hip hop, thug life, and Black Power revolution. And as you see, many people believe that Tupac is the greatest, rap artist ever. I surely believe he's the GOAT. You can tell by books behind me and just the affinity that I have. And I distinctly remember, Chicago South Side and coming home from school, basketball practice. I got my CD Walkman in, telling my age a little bit, but I was bumping his album, Me Against the World. And this came out maybe a week or so after he went to prison. And I just remember being touched with this heartfelt conversation I never heard a rap artist, share. He came across as a big brother OG type of figure, and he captured the entire emotional plight, of what I believe the Black male goes through. And the reason why many consider him to be the greatest rap artist ever, he has the greatest story. So there's a docuseries out now. It's called Dear Mama. It's on Hulu, FX. I totally suggest that you watch it if you haven't. And he was born, his mother was pregnant in jail as a Black Panther revolutionary. And he was born into a life of poverty. His mom began suffering from drug addictions, and she put him into, however, school, the performance arts. And he went from immersing himself in the arts to falling in love with hip hop, becoming a background singer, digital underground, and evolving all the way from there to just an incredible solo artist. And in the meanwhile, had been a victim of police brutality. Even beat a case, where he defended a man who was being attacked by men who ended up being undercover cops, so he embodied every bit of that revolutionary spirit. Got shot 5 times, um, ended up going to prison for a very controversial case that he caught. Went into prison, dropped the album while he was in prison that shook up the world. Came out, signed with the baddest, hardest, label during the time, Death Row, and dropped the double CD classic. Ended up, putting music after music, becoming this iconic rap artist, and dies of a very tragic, murder. And that there, it adds to the fandom and the martyr behind why he's so adored. When you think of Tupac, he's a hip hop martyr in a very similar way to how we saw a Messiah, how we read about a Messiah 2,000 years ago, or we had our Black Messiahs in the civil rights era from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. For the hip hop generation, his entire brand story reflects that. And even to this day, almost 30 years later, you have a docuseries, out about him. Music is still released, and he embodies this powerful story that makes him, one of the greatest rappers, to ever live. So that is the power of a story. And we all have the ability to find our own inner Messiah that is surely needed within our culture. So the 3 truths to brand storytelling. 1, every brand story is a hero's journey. There is a healing solution and a sacrifice for the greater good that is always needed. And that's the journey of our lives. And when it's brought together through a brand story, it's like no other. 2, the best story wins. So branding and marketing, sometimes there's a misconception that it's a battle of products, but it's actually a battle of perception, and that best story wins. And ultimately, I want you to know that the best story is always you. Your brand is so powerful because it's an extension of you. There's no greater brand story to tell than the one that aligns with yours. So you see me emerging from this pot energy and spirit, and you may ask, well, Marcellus, what's your story? And, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. I consider myself a mix of a Tupac and a Deepak Topa with a lot of Kobe Mamba mentality and Michael Jordan in between. So I'm just inspired by the energy of greatness, and grew up with a loving, outstanding family, parents that, provided the world, for me. But I was also very aware of the systemic oppression, within our community. And, where I was fortunate, I saw the pathway of others that wasn't as fortunate. So where the solution is nothing short of a revolution, I believe there's always a need for that Black Messiah. So went to FAMU, went to the School of Business, and learned about business a certain way. But there were friends from my community and my block that learned about business, and they were just as smart, just as talented, but they learned in a different way. And that pathway, led to some very tragic circumstances. So I remember just that experience happening, and I'm doing these internships. And while I'm doing these internships, I got friends that are going to prison, or, some of them, even worse, and dealing with that. And I remember there was one experience I had, an internship experience, and working with this corporation and doing international assignments. And they wanted me to kind of support, an African American symposium. And yeah, the highlight of the event was they had the parent CEO as well as CEOs of all the related companies on a panel for all of the African Americans to ask questions. And I coordinated, so I was in the background, and I felt a need to kind of share something that wasn't really being shared. So I asked them, looking at these CEOs, I said, with all of the brilliant product innovation, supply chain optimizations, profit maximizing initiatives, all these things that can drive a business within a stagnant market. I just asked, how do you apply that same brilliance and that same genius to reverse the systemic, harsh realities, of a demographic that descends from, some of the most oppressive, traumatizing, dehumanizing experiences where a nation and its constitution considered us 3/5 of a human being. How do you use your brilliance for that? And it was like, 30 seconds of a pause. Then the CEO of the parent company, the head person got the mic and said, well, you know what? That's not our problem. That's yours. I said, wow. And then another CEO, these are guys that have been on Forbes magazine, Fortune magazines, really global leaders in this space. And, the other CEO mentioned that, something that sounded even worse. And I saw within a matter of seconds that the most brilliant men in the room became the dumbest. And I thought about the genius solutions that were needed for our culture and this need for the rise of Black messiahs all throughout. And I knew that probably wasn't the place where that would take place. So after that assignment, I went back to finish up, my degree, and graduated. And, with a son on the way, I decided to become an entrepreneur and channel that inner Tupac as well as a rap artist. So, started off with a rap record label, turned into a promo company, began doing these rap commercials. If you were anywhere in the North Florida area from 2005 to 2015, you probably heard a lot of rap commercials, Mitsubishi, Gold's Gym, and one popular one, there was one for hip hop fish and chicken. And did so well for the owner that they were able to sell that company, for millions. And ironically, DJ Khaled's uncle purchased it. And I believe it inspired DJ Khaled's finger licking that he has today. So, moved to Jacksonville and just want to share this book that I'm holding. It's inspired because I co-wrote it with a young man that I heard about. And as I began working with different, beauty supply owners, I began to hear about this young Black male who had this fire hair. He was selling it out of the back of his trunk. They were saying all types of mythical things about this guy and the superiority of the hair, and women claiming that they could do all types of things in the shower, in the pool with it. And I said, wow. And ultimately, when I saw, what he was doing, I found out that he had dropped out of school in the 9th grade. He had been a D-boy. He had been incarcerated, but came out and applied everything he learned in the business through streets. He applied that to his legitimate business. And I said, you know what? Let me take these resources and this marketing expertise and let me support this young brother doing his thing. We're actually the same age, and we connected. And he was able to grow a multi-million-dollar business called Beautiful Hair for You. His name is Chris Freeman. And we came out with a book called Dope Black Boy, The Rich Black Man. And really talks about how to channel that hustler's ambition into, the empowered, successful pathway of entrepreneurship. So that's a little bit of my story. But all to say that I champion entrepreneurs, like yourself, those in our community. And we come through so many different diverse walks of life, and being able to empower ourselves, empower others through our superpower, however we develop it, is something that the world needs. And before you can start telling a brand story, It starts with your brand identity, and that's ultimately, who you are and what you do. And I love this question. Anybody who knows me, including Munson Steve, the founder of Rolling Out, and all my clients, all my closest people, I ask this to uncover what's your identity, and I ask, if I had all the power in the world, what would I do? And I ask you to ask that question to yourself. If you had all the power in the world, what would you do? And that answer is your super mission. So for Steve Jobs, his was to put a dent in the universe and make sure that a computer is in everybody's pocket, which is what our iPhones serve us for. And just creating these mind-blowing tech innovations. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, his thing was to offer and deliver anything, from A to Z. That's what Amazon, the A and the Z at the end of it, or in the middle of it, there's an arrow because he's trying to get you anything that you need, within one click. And you have those innovators there. You have Oprah Winfrey, she seeks to uncover and share just dynamic life stories, that empower for all to connect and tap into the highest version of themselves. So you have a super mission. And when you sit down and ask yourself this question, if I had all the power in the world, if I tap this button, what would I do? That is your super mission. And your brand is most powerful when it flourishes through there. Now, this question taps into what makes what makes this super mission possible. And the question is, what's the one thing that makes me more unique than anything in the world? And you're a one in a forever creation. Your brand, thus, is a one in forever creation. And when you determine what that is, that's your superpower. And if you want to know my superpower, ultimately is reminding you of yours. That's why we're here today. That's what the stars and the universe has aligned, because I'm here to remind you of your superpower. And this is a very important question to ask yourself. And this is all, once again, tapping into, really defining your brand identity. Who's the one person you must save? Who's the one person you must save the most? That is your super customer. So you want to be able to develop a particular connection, with this person. You want to be specific. You want to describe them. You want to, build an avatar for them. Let it be a direct person, because no connection is ever made to even tell a story, unless you are on the same emotional frequency. You have the same, mindset as well. So identifying a super customer, it enables you to set this definite emotional frequency. And the cool thing is, this ideal super customer is actually a emotional set, and it's a mindset. And so anybody, we wear Jordans, there are young people that feel super fly when they have them on, and probably feel a little older than what they are when they had that status. There are people, my age, and even older, that will wear Jordans and tap into the same mindset of that young person in their 20s, looking to triumph in life and looking to make a statement and a symbol as well. So that's your super customer. And it's very important for your brand identity. And I share this because a part of even my mission, I found that within our culture of entrepreneurs, we have a billionaire mindset. I've had the luxury of being able to work with Robin Beeman. She has a PR company called Beeman Inc., and she has actually worked with 3 Black billionaires. So I gain insights from her all the time. She started the PR division for BET and worked with, Robert Johnson and Sheila Johnson as well. She worked with Oprah Winfrey, in the area of PR. And so learning from her, they're actually geniuses. Oprah actually can read a book, in one day, 2 hours before interviewing something there. And what I found, I was able to work with, partnering up with his agency, and working with Robert Frederick Smith, because he was on a conference, a HBC tech conference for, hosted by tech companies. And there's this genius visionary, he's able to understand this internal value of any and everything and can look at any financial data set, and be able to tell that story. So he's leveraged that into, many charitable efforts, and that's a part of the story. We've seen that with Oprah, and we see many Black billionaires now: Tyler Perry, LeBron James, Jay-Z, and several more. Rihanna, there are about a dozen. But that mindset is within us, and you want to be able to dream big. And part of my mission is to champion the next Black billionaire. And I believe that it's very possible that that could be you. So with the brand, let's define, a brand and then a story. So a brand is this owned emotion that creates symbolic value as a personality, a promise, and a package. A lot of times people, and for a good reason, because we all have different talents, sometimes it's visual. A lot of times we start with the package with a brand and we think, what's the logo and the color palette. But I normally start with the personality and the intangible, because it's such an intangible. So we can, if you think about your best friend, you think about their number one quality or what makes them a best friend to you. You can think about that. And I'm pretty sure that you didn't mention anything about, what they look like, and what color they have on, or any specifics like that. But you think about the particular personality that they have, and maybe they're a ride or die person, maybe they're loyal, maybe they're funny, maybe they just motivate you to kind of live your best life. And the way that we resonate with our friends and people is actually the way that we resonate with brands that we're most connected with. So building that personality is so important. And then there's a promise to deliver no matter what. And then we take that and we put it in a package. And the story is ultimately an experience that can be shared. And it takes something, very special, and we know it because we're excited and we're empowered to want to share that story. When you have that, you have the makings of a brand story. And brand storytelling is ultimately the art of surprise. One time for Jamie Foxx, and his hit back in the day was Unpredictable. And whenever someone is dating, it's probably the last thing they want to hear their partner say is that you're too predictable. But in branding and brand storytelling, it is a very beautiful dating experience, in which you're connecting in order to build a relationship, with your customer. And we all love an adventure. We all love the element of surprise that is a part of every story. And brand storytelling, it is the ultimate art of surprise. And this here, just to show, is a shoe. It's a classic. Many ladies have a black stiletto, and it's a staple in everyone's closet, but it's a shoe. However, the right twist, the right turn. I'm sure we've all seen, someone who's turned around or crossed their legs, and you saw that red, and immediately you understood that there was a story. You understood that they've arrived. You've understood that they've got status. They have these red bottoms, these Christian Louis Vuittons, and dare we say she's a boss chick, and definitely high lux. But all of that can be captured, all within a brand and some of the makings of it and the stories behind it. And you can probably tell from the hat that I'm wearing, the references that I made. By far, one of my favorite brands is, the Jordan brand. And, but I want to capture here that there are three types of brands. It's the personal, product, and lifestyle. And the Jordan brand is just the epitome of all of those. And when it comes to the personal, this is probably one of the most iconic pictures, but Michael Jordan, the most iconic, air defying, buzzer beater winning, back to back to back, play some baseball, came back, won again, back to back to back, most relentless athletic phenomenons that we've ever seen. And with a personal brand story of just sheer will, relentless work ethic, and perseverance, Nike was masterful. There's even a movie out, Air, but masterful in identifying very early on that this could be the biggest thing and banking all the way into it. But they tied into his personal brand, which is built on excellence and built on overcoming adversity. And then you have the product brand. And this line, I'm sure many of you all have probably had one of these at some point. I picked up my son from school back when he was in high school, and he would come home with just socks. And I'd be like, bro, like what's going on? And he would have sold, his one of his Jordans, because they actually appreciate, So one time for those young Black brothers and sisters that are in line, when they drop. A lot of people think they're buying them so that they can wear them, but they're buying them so that they're mini entrepreneurs, and they're actually looking to flip it and get a return on investment. But the innovation behind this product is something very special, tying it into the iconic personal brand of Jordan. And then you ultimately have a lifestyle brand beyond just a basketball shoe. It's the ultimate status symbol of being fly within the culture and across all walks of life. So I feel like there's two J's that really have driven the Nike brand. The first one, of course, is Jordan. And the second is just do it. So this slogan came about because the co-founder of the Nike's ad agency, they were thinking about this slogan. They were brainstorming. They weren't really coming up with some good ideas. And then they read about a person who was on death row. And, when he was sentenced to be executed, they were like, you got any final words? And the guy was like, let's do it. And the ad agency exec, thought about it, changed it from let's do it to just do it. And the rest is history, So it's simple, yet brilliant, resonates with the superhero in all of us with this 3-word mandate, and, it just embodies what we have to do to overcome adversity, to triumph and be victorious. And that's ultimately to just do it. And this has been used, here, Simone Biles, they've aligned it, with even more iconic athletes, do things history could only dream, about. Just do it as well. And, we have here, Serena Williams and the tennis GOAT. So they align themselves with these personal brands and GOATs, but they capture these very special moments a lot of times where there's some level of adversity. And, when she was banned from wearing a certain attire, because she looked too supernatural, they made this statement. They told her, you can take the superhero out of her costume, but you can never take away her superpowers. Once again, just do it. And telling the story again and again, this being probably one of the more powerful ones in recent years. And us really seeing, and we'll never forget just Colin Kaepernick's just bold, stand, by kneeling during the national anthem and protesting, in a horrific string of police brutality, murders of innocent Black people, and several of which were caught on camera. And when he was blackballed from the NFL, Nike took a very bold chance and stand, to be able to back him with this particular campaign, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. That's deeper than a sneaker. At that point, it's deeper than a person that we like to see throw touchdowns. This is everything that we live for and what tragically too many are dying for. They stood behind that, and it actually improved their stock price, and it improved their their earnings within a quarter right after they did it. So there, once again, Nike is able to take, this brand story and just drive it even further, immerse within the culture. So the number one quality in brand storytelling is empathy, uh, shown through those examples. And ultimately, you have to really care. End of the day, branding is a competition to see who cares the most. It's almost like fighting for a particular person, and if it's several guys fighting for this woman, she's ultimately looking for who cares about me the most, who's willing to do the most, who's willing to understand me, and champion me the most. So I think there's a great quote, by Theodore Roosevelt: "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And that is very important in storytelling. I share this AI developed picture because the story of the elephant and the elephant rider is one that I like to share. So imagine that you're at a block club party, all your peeps is getting it in. You playing your Frankie Beverly. It could be Beyonce's version, or Frankie Beverly Mays, "Before I Let Go." And good vibes. And, you got Universal Circus, they on your block, and an elephant rider and an elephant, they come on your lawn. Imagine that just happens. You're in your lawn chair, and I want you to ask yourself, like, would you tell the elephant rider or the elephant to please, get off your lawn? And your answer is more than likely the elephant rider. Of course, that person understands English, and that's what you would do. But imagine if that elephant saw his babies, like, this baby elephant behind them, being attacked by a pack of hyenas. And, in that situation, is there anything that you could tell the elephant rider to stop the elephant from doing whatever it takes to save their babies? And the answer is no. And in the world of branding, the elephant is a consumer's emotions, and the elephant rider is the logic. And this leads to a very important rule in branding. The number one rule is emotion is always greater than logic. Especially, that's why we tell the story, because we're looking for somebody to connect on this emotional wave and feel something that drives action. And this quote here: "Logic makes a customer think, but emotion makes them act." So when you start a business, at some point you want action. You want people to love your brand. You want people to, purchase your brand, be loyal to your brand, and that is very much a give and take, cyclical relationship based on emotion. So here are the 5 objectives of brand storytelling. One is to captivate emotion. We tell brand stories because they're the human bridge to connecting our feelings. Changing perspective, that's very much a very important objective because brand storytelling, it really inspires change in perspective to evolve and to overcome, from a state of challenge to a place of a solution. That's the ultimate journey, in our life. Then it's the cultivated tribe, and highlight, capitalize the cult, within that, because this is when you have effectively built a brand. When you have a cult, and they're a following, they're this tribe, and every winning brand has one because it's such a strong affinity, and there's even a greater affinity amongst shared values there. And you create a brand universe, from that as well, where you have various tribes that come together and they all align behind, the strong brand and the story behind it. And that's ultimately how you champion a movement. So I want to share many of y'all, especially if you're in Atlanta, but by now most of us have heard of Slutty Vegan. They're a friend of Rolling Out. And I remember seeing these Instagram posts of celebrities like Snoop Dogg, Tiffany Haddish, and they were talking about, they biting this burger and showing how, incredible and delicious it is. And then my lady, she began to tell me, this is years ago, like, man, we need to go to Atlanta and go to Slutty Vegan. Next time we're there, we got to go. And I'm like, man, it's a lot of talk going on with the Slutty Vegan. So sure enough, we get to ATL. It's a very cold day and cold night, Saturday night. And I pull up and it's a line all the way around the block, at least over 100 people in line. And so my lady is like, well, let me just stay in the car. And of course, you can wait in line and go get it. So I'm like, really? This is what we got to do for Slutty Vegan. So I get in line, and I'm there, but it's a great energy. People are conversing, people are talking, people cracking jokes, and it's got this vibe like this HBCU, homecoming type of energy. And the two people in front of me, they like, I'm not vegan, but I know I can get kind of slutty, ha ha ha. And I'm like, man, where am I at? What's going on? And then there's a lady, she's like the crowd controller. So she's got a mic. She starts singing the song that was popular at the time was Lil Nas, Old Town Road. And, she's singing it, people doing their rodeo dance. And I'm like, man, this is like an experience. And then, she starts singing Mary J. Blige, Real Love, everybody singing, doing a two-step. And it just became a really dope, experience. People talking about, where you from and what Black-owned restaurant, and I'm like, man, I got to represent Harold's Chicken and a couple other spots, out of Chicago. And it's really cool. And by that time, and I counted, and it was 74 minutes before I was able to get my food. But I get to the spot where I'm able to order. I'm seeing these exotic, menu, offerings like sloppy toppy and one night stand. And I come in there, they're like, have you been here before? And I'm like, no. And the whole spot says virgin. And the two girls behind me, they like, have you been there before? They like, yeah, we have. And they're like, welcome back, sluts. And even though they combined, I think the brilliance and the genius was taking, sex sales, but really creating this wholesome, straight love, family reunion vibe around it. And, sure enough, I get, the burger. When you come out of there, you feel like a champ. So I came out after waiting. I'm holding this thing like it's a gold medal. I get back to the car. My lady, we both can smell it. We rip open the bag. I pull my burger. She gets her burger. We pull our iPhones out because we had to capture the moment and bite into it. And I'm like, I've been slutified. And we laugh and we trip out. But all to say, like, that was an experience. I've never tasted a burger that good. So shout out to Slutty Vegan because it's the best burger I've ever had and probably one of the more healthier ones. But even more importantly, it was the dopest experience that I could ever imagine. So when you have that type of experience, you want to know more about the story behind that brand. I learned even more, about Pinky and was able to connect and even do a experiential campaign with her, collaborating with Meow and Bart's Boutique. Is a dynamic, fashion designer and fashion boutique, owner, Tracy Evans Frere. And but the story behind Pinky. Father was incarcerated for, throughout her entire childhood. She graduated from Clark. She started up a restaurant in Harlem, but it caught on fire. And she, in the middle of the night, just thinks about these two words, Slutty Vegan, and goes to work. Opened up a food truck, carry-out restaurant, and became a multimillionaire, within that year. And now she's, just created this nationwide brand of this slutified, energy. She's got merch. I've got one of the shirts, and it's really become a movement. And, she's got numerous locations and is doing incredibly well. So that's the power, of a story, done right. So the impacts of brand storytelling, entertainment, to empower, to enlighten, to engage, and even to enrage. So examples of each of those, this would be, and at the Beyonce, the greatest entertainer. I give all of the props to her, of our generation. She even does that. I've seen her do that actual pose, actually on concert, but it's the most dynamic, experience that you could ever have. And whatever, she dropped this tour and, people going wild, with it. It's a premium price, but it's a frenzy for it. And whatever that price is, like, it's worth it because something very powerful about entertainment. Entertainment is the most superior form of influence. So we get our greatest influences from brands that are able to align themselves and drive, this particular form of entertainment. Fenty Beauty, piggybacking on another iconic, artist, Rihanna, but this here was a moment of empowerment. And, yes, she's a superstar, but it was more so about her and her strategists just really getting into their bag and, forever changing the beauty industry. They actually launched, uh, a whole collection of 40 different shades, in a time where it was very hard for particularly Black women, especially of a darker complexion, to be able to find the perfect foundation and match. She created the widest spectrum that actually represents the world as it really is in a way that is very beautiful and very inclusive and very, very empowering. And this is probably one of the greatest brands that's, been launched in the past couple of years because there was a strong sense of empathy to really connect to a pain point and a void in the market that once again revolutionized the whole industry. Here, this enlightenment, and I want to, shout out African ancestry. I'm actually want to shout out Linnell Harris. He does these trips. They're called Transformation to Ghana. I'm taking, my family this summer, and part of the experience is doing this African American DNA, kit, and it breaks down the nation. I'm sure we've heard of, the different ones as well, but this one breaks down the tribe along with, where your ancestors are from, broken down by percentage. So it's really cool to do this. I kind of avoided doing it, but when I did it and got the results back and found out on my dad's side, it's 40% Nigerian. And I'm like, all right, that's where my hustle energy may come from, but also 20% British. And I'm like, wow, that's a story. These numbers tell a story. And it elevated my sense of self-identity. And it's a powerful story of reconnecting us, with our homeland. And here, CDC, we've seen so many of these campaigns, like it's very effective because, you see a visual person with a hole in their neck and or you hear a commercial and somebody's talking and they sound like this. I never want anything to do with a cigarette. And it's very effective. So this is how you use this to enrage. And it leads to the pillars, of brand storytelling. And I'm throwing a lot there because we load up in these rolling out university master classes, and you should have a whole bag of everything to champion your brand and the story. So, it begins with an alignment and who you are, your super mission, your superpower, your stories align with that. So Oprah, universal consciousness and healing. She knows that, within aligning with her brand. So she knows she wouldn't talk about, being the most seductive, erotic, savage on the planet. Contrary, Megan Thee Stallion, the most seductive boss chick, baddie, savage goddess on the planet, would not do a podcast about parallel universes and metaphysical interpretations of the Bible because that's not in alignment with her brand. So understanding how your brand aligns, telling those stories is very important, and then being very authentic, as well. And the it factor is behind the authenticity. It is the unrestricted self-expression. So just being unapologetic and displaying all of who you are. Then the relatability is the ability to understand and connect to the consumer on a personal level. And the stickiness is always something that's got to be catchy, it's got to be memorable, and you got to hook people today more than ever. But ultimately, within these pillars, the brand story is to transferring that superpower, to your super customer. And I want to shout out Rolling Out. I want to use Rolling Out as a reference. because, once again, Munson Steve, incredible visionary. That billionaire mindset I was talking about, that is him. One conversation and he will have you all over the universe. But the power is, one, this goal of rolling out, and it's uplifting the entire Black community in every single way possible. And when we talk about community, and it's a very big difference, from culture. Culture is the influence, but community is the connection. Community is the behavior. And with rolling out, most people's first touch point, if you're an older millennial or Gen X, it's getting, one of the rolling out, newspapers hot off the press, and it's telling you everything that's going on in the community. And you found it at your barbershop or, a fashion store or, a Black-owned restaurant. So, and evolve to this digital universe in which we're able to, get all of these, day-to-day updates on everything in the culture, but it's rooted in the community. And, to be honest with you, many people's first write-up, when they get some coverage, it can be with rolling out. It was a really cool moment to see in Kanye's documentary Genius that when he was riding around, there was actually a rolling. This is way back when he was starting on his music journey. There was a rolling out journalist in the car with him. So that's how entrenched, rolling out has been in the community. And the founder, once again, Munson Steve, just is unapologetic about his love for Black people and wanting to see them win. And the entertainment, so that's the sticky. So, with the digital magazines, the links and the social posts, Instagram, and the hottest topics that's going on in the culture that we may get in our email, from the hottest movies, the rap artists, the influencers, the latest entanglements, and anything else, from best dressed at the Met Gala to beyond. But that's the entertainment. Once again, entertainment is the most superior form of influence. So that's part of the sticky. The empowerment, we are being empowered. This design and dialogue, this is a space of empowerment. This is to champion you to be the best brand storyteller, the best creative, the best artist, the best entrepreneur that you can be. And every month, there is some sort of event, whether it's Sisters with Superpowers or something, where this brand is totally creating an experience of empowerment and ultimately just capturing legacy of, past great leaders from Martin Luther King to Maya Angelou and the current living legends that are being made to be the future of the leaders today. So one time for rolling out, tell some of the greatest brand stories and one that has a strong affinity within our community. So these elements, the brand storytelling, we're breaking down the storytelling, and it always starts with a picture, because even though today we're fixated on content, it means nothing without context. And so that picture, you got to create the situation. Then there's a problem. Ultimately, within the problem, there's three things that you always have to do. You got to identify that problem. You amplify that problem. You got to turn up the heat with that problem, and then you heal the wound. And so that's a part of your brand storytelling. And the pursuit is the journey. It's the goal is never the goal, but who you become along the process. And this is the ultimate journey for your ultimate super customer that is on their pathway to being, that superhero. And then there's a promise, something that willing to, to do, and it's a must. It's not what you can do. It's not what you wish you could do. With that brand promise, it's something you must do, and you deliver on it. And ultimately, it's that paradise. It's this fulfilling, what I call a moonshot, and it gets this story and this art over to a place from challenge and pain point to this journey to aligning with a promise where ultimately the customer is able to have an experience of tapping into the grandest version of the greatest vision with no limits. And something I learned from my sister, she's a filmmaker, and her name is Jatasha. She's Afrofuturism writer, filmmaker extraordinaire. And she told me that when pitching, work in Hollywood and in those types of settings, many people think it's about the plot and describing the plot. but it really comes down to the characters, and that's what's so important with brand storytelling. I show, the lead characters out of the first Power, and the human persona is the most powerful connection, and it's the piece to any brand story. So when you start this Power off this series with James St. Patrick, aka Ghost, and he's the most savage drug dealer on the planet, the most ambitious businessman, and he's aggressively torn between, his love for his family, his indomitable appetite for power, and that fluctuates from the streets to being a legitimate businessman. He's the Stringer Bell from The Wire on steroids. And that is what sells that particular series. And, along with him, he has his OG, Kanan, which is 50 Cent, and brought him into the game, but he's adamant about taking him out. He's got his ride or die, crazy, cool white boy homie, Tommy, who is loyal to a fault and builds other, conflicts and situations. And he has Tasha, his wife, who, she acknowledges his ambition to be a legit businessman, but end of the day, yo, we built this family off a drug empire, and we gonna keep it built here in these streets. And then you have Angela, who is the side chick for Ghost, but ends up, she's actually undercover, not only undercover lover, she's an undercover cop. And her whole job is to ultimately take him down at some point. So this powerful brand story, and the beautiful thing about a very powerful brand story that's rooted in these bigger than life characters is it never ends. And I'm sure for those that follow the series, it hasn't ended. There's been, several iterations of it. This probably being one of the more popular ones, Power Book 2. And you have Tariq, who is very aware. He's a very dangerously crafted kid, and he can't help but pursue becoming, a more modern, calculated, complex version of his dad that ends up taking him down. He's got his usual suspects, there with him. And there's styles to brand content storytelling. So this is important to be able to really identify with what's needed in order to create this brand story that I'm going to give to my audience. And it always starts with a movement. Our world is shaped by movements. A brand storyteller is really a world builder, and from those movements, we create the movie. The movie is tapping into that cultural movement and being able to break it down into the creation of this full scale production, in whatever creative format, just like a movie. And that drives, the movement as your own brand, your own special brand campaign story. And then there's the message that comes, within that, for, the power of being this superhero. There's these moments that we capture. That's so important. Oscars are won, off of moments. Jennifer Hudson singing "The Dream Girls, You're Gonna Love Me." Same with Leonardo DiCaprio, wrestling a bear. But you also have moments in these brand productions that you capture in with, all the different platforms. We're able to use those as well, and you use them in micro, very snackable content pieces. So I want to share, a movement that I thought was fascinating. It's the natural hair movement. And, for the majority of this nation's existence, Black women with curly hair patterns, similar to, the swirl of the makeup of our DNA and of, the universe. But somewhere the world got it wrong and society got it wrong and began telling Black women in particularly that you are beautiful, but particularly if your hair is not straight. And so this meant you got to go through hell. You see this young lady on the left. That is the outcome of, a conditioning where people are told that they got to change their natural curl pattern. I got sisters. I know, the resistance, with young girls growing up in a flat iron, and then that rites of passage, where one is getting, a relaxer, and all of this heat manipulation, and really going as far away from the natural beauty as well. And I learned this from a very special person I'm going to reference soon, who really understands the space. And what it did was, you see this woman here that actually has created so much stress and so much tension and so many extensions that she had to put in her hair that didn't really match it. So there's, just more manipulation in a way that it ends up being very, very unhealthy. And the opposite of the desired effect. So the women got to a point, Black women, and recognized that this creamy crack, is killing their hair, and said, we're done with that. And it sparked a natural hair movement. You can see these beautiful sisters to the right, and they began embracing, just the beautiful natural texture of their the natural state of their hair. And I want to reference a brand that I work with. It's True and Pure Texture. And they are, it's founded by a trailblazing pioneer, Pakila Riley, who had a very hard life coming up, lost her parents at an early age and dealt with a lot, but immersed herself into becoming a hairstylist and became, I believe, the greatest texture master hairstylist and educator, on this planet, and has a salon, Salon PKs in Jacksonville, Florida, and created this innovative textured hair, extensions that has the widest variety, of these texture ranges and all the different products from clip-ins, the ponytails, but everything that one can need so that the message is texture is the apex. And you're not at the bottom of the pyramid. Like this here, this here that's popular, that's actually at the top. And the Black woman in her most natural, texture state is more than enough. And she has everything to, appreciate herself and live that soft life. So this is a campaign, a series of shoots that, Pakila did with the True and Pure Texture. And there's one woman wearing every range of texture curl. And this here paints a story. This woman who at a younger age was probably told that she needed to run away from texture, now is running into this texture and, just really, experiencing a sense of empowerment. And with this, video campaigns can be created, the photo shoots are created, and able to break down these stories, into the own media through social media, blogs, newsletters, earned media with PR conversations around what this journey looks like and this new innovation, for women to have this experience. And that's the power of being able to create, tap into a movement, create a movie, and build all of the macro and micro pieces to be able to connect with others who are looking for a savior experience. And I just share here just a toolkit. You can grab, you can take when you think of content, produce it's either content is simply is visual, is audio, or something you can read. So when you think about that experience and these, different things that you're creating, you may start with a video. Music is so important. You connect there, and or it may be something more so like a conversation. So it's more like a podcast, or maybe it's something that is so powerful that it needs to be read. And whatever you tap into with your toolkit of your visual, your audio, your writing, then there's the cosign. That's very important because once again, brand storytelling is all about that persona. So celebrity, many are worth it. It's worth paying the budget to be able to connect with a celebrity or connect with an influencer that speaks to your audience, and is able to create these stories and this content. In many cases, that may be the customer and their testimony, or the brand owner, or an expert, or a model. And then you have an array of different activations, that one is able to do, from a showcase at a conference, just like rolling out Ride, great way to launch a brand or to amplify it, meet and greets and flash mobs. But the world is limitless, and just bringing this is just a toolkit, but you can create anything that you want, to share that story. And last thing I just want to share is what I believe are like breakthrough tips to brand storytelling. So first is wow. You got to wow them. You gotta excite, and the reason for that is we're inundated with like 60,000 messages, per day. You only have 3 seconds to catch that super customer. And, Tesla does it through this point of view that, hey, the future is now, and the future is actually a mobile device, on wheels as it relates to car, and as it relates to sustainability, it relates to autonomous, like no human drivers in the near future. Like that is the polarizing point of view that drives the energy of Tesla, and they have a polarizing leader, that continues to share a lot of different messages, and I'm sure there's some alignment conversation as always, important to probably consider. But that's the Tesla brand. Nike, strictly, like I said, the celebrity personality, and then the dynamic promo behind them. Amazon is that promise that, hey, whatever you want from A to Z, you're going to get it in one click in 2 days or less. And Fenty Beauty, there is the positioning and, just the power of that inclusion for all. And I want to share this, just one of the wow moments. This took place, it went viral, broke the internet with this 3D digital fashion show by Hanifa. And it's this Congo inspired collections, got all of the representation, of Black women. And it was on Instagram Live. And I remember that day because everybody was sharing, women across my timeline were going crazy over it. And it was one of the most awe-inspiring digital experiences that I've ever seen. This here, if you haven't seen Alvin Ailey, powerful, historic legacy dance company, and this dynamic dance theater performance, where you can see them communicating through dance, and they're telling transatlantic stories. They're communicating this resilience and this breakthrough of African Americans in a very powerful experiential way, which is also telling, a very strong brand story about our culture. And 2 is an arc. So it's going to run through, story is always a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have your characters that are so important, but that arc is to cover that conflict, because we got to have that element of surprise. And you have your hero journey. Nike is built off of the triumph, just like the Rocky story is. You got the magic experience, a love story, which is some of the greatest stories told. So that coming to America movie-wise, but as a brand, that's Disney. Where families have this once in a lifetime vacation, where it is sheer, just excitement and surrealness. You got the utopian universe, that you can tap into. Black Panther is a great example movie-wise. Fenty Beauty is what the world really is, but the most dynamic picture of what it should have been all along, with this wide array. And then the, comedy and this space of social is so important, for those whose brands align with it, to incorporate that. You notice, Geico does that very well. And then it may be, you may have a luxury, a VIP status, affluence, sort of story to align with a luxury type of brand. And, your Birkin bags and, your Christian Louboutins and Louis Vuitton and Gucci tap into that as well. But there's a story, there's an art, building that and picking one of those to build this story where ultimately there's a surprise and there's a breakthrough. And what's so important, you got to have a nemesis in a story, a brand story. And the ultimate, without going too deep into it, we already know if you got an iPhone, a lot of people don't rock with Samsung, and they're like, why do I have to communicate, these messages with somebody, and vice versa, if there's a Samsung. And something wild, there was a neuroscience study on brands, and they observed the brain's reaction if they owned an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy. And they found that Apple customers responded in the same way that they would an actual friend. And on the flip side, or a family member, that they cared about. On the flip side, Samsung only had an affinity for the images that they saw that went against Apple. So it was almost like Apple was the beloved of the Apple brand, and Samsung was like, we're the complete opposite of anything that's Apple. So very interesting. But there's a nemesis. Samsung is the ultimate nemesis for Apple iPhone, and vice versa. And you want to recognize who's that nemesis, with your audience as well. And transformation, I want to bring up one other example because it's so important. People love, especially in this day and age, to go from nothing to something, or bad to, phenomenal. And one of the most greatest examples I see, once again, I want to shout out Pakila Riley, a great client I work with, True Appear brand, but she taps into, influencers like Alana Simone, who is able to show in tutorials and a lot of other different formats how you can start off, and take a wig that is called, this is actually called this innovative product called the True Part. And, it has less leave out than anything on the market. And it just is the perfect match for a particular hair texture. And when you see this transformation, when you see this picture, and women, y'all are killing it. And I see it when you do it with beauty and your fashion makeovers and everything there. And it's like, how low can you go and how high can you rise? So these are all stories. And, we're in social space where it's a lot of different ways, micro content to be able to do that. And ultimately, it's the solution. So I'm going to end with the ultimate solution. This will be the greatest thing you could ever do for your brand story. You do not want to miss this. This is everything you need and more, and it's very easy to incorporate. And that is the Run It book. How to Secure the $1 Million Bag of Business. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. This is a great book. If you like what you heard and you want to know everything behind just the business and the expertise, behind, building a $1 million business. This is a book I wrote once again with Christopher Freeman, the young man who, just rose from, a ninth grade dropout and, being a kingpin to, actually coming out of a prison and applying every single skill set. We did our original book, Dope Black Boy, The Rich Black Man, and then did the business book. And this is more of a how to do this in a legitimate business setting. So this is a quick shout out there, but the message of that book and what I really want you to take in is when it comes to brand storytelling, when it comes to driving a successful brand, I want you to know this is the highlight of that book, but the race is already won. All you have to do is run it. That's the solution. You ultimately are a superhero. You're a superhero. Your brand story, it is your greatest superpower. I remember, shout out to Dr. Maya Green. She did so much incredible work, during the pandemic, and she saved lives that were close to me, like in Chicago, and lives all across the city. She actually put together this algorithmic formula to be able to get people to get tested during a time where they weren't testing a lot of people in our community, to be able to get them the treatment that they needed, be able to get them the tests when they weren't available, be able to get, testing and vaccines, and being able to really, actually did had a van that she would go out to and go into the communities that were hotspots, to be able to help people, during this pandemic and this crisis. And what she told me when she was treating people who were really down and out, she said that we can give them the medicine and a lot of the different things, but ultimately it's within them. We're just a reminder of what's within them. And it always stood out within me, one, the care that she gave, and all the things that she did to kind of build on something that will be timeless, in terms of the power that she delivered. But it reinforced that solution is within you. And you have what the world needs. You too have that cure, for everything that your brand delivers on. And the universe will have it no other way until you deliver it. So I'll leave you with, this statement here. Superheroes don't run from the fire. They run to it. And you have that vision with your brand, whether you have already, launched it into the marketplace, whether you 10 or 20 years and looking for a whole nother gear, or whether it's something that you've been thinking about that you never really moved on, it's for you to do. And you do have that superpower. It's time to get yourself, and your brand story, locked in, on fire to go get it. And hopefully this helps with you. So once again, you are a superhero. You have a superpower. And your brand is something that the world needs, but they can't get it and they can't connect until you build that story around it. So once again, I'm Marcellus. I hope you enjoyed, this insight on brand storytelling. Unleash your superpower. There's nothing like it and the world needs it. Peace.